Section 6.1, we're going to talk about, at least at the beginning, one-to-one functions. A function is said to be one-to-one if no two x values give the same y value. Let's see what that means. So again, we want no two x's giving the same y value. So as points, what that might mean is we might plug in, let's say, a 1 to a function, and we'd also get out a 1 from the function as our y. And let's say also plugging in -1 also got you out the y value 1. The problem is not the x values, it's that you have two different x values that gave you the same y value. Something is not one-to-one if this happens. You have a repeating y value. So we don't want y's to repeat. So no repeating y's. Okay, let's look at our first function here in A. Well, if you actually think about what A is, it's actually a line. Notice it's in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. What's nice about lines is each x that you plug in is going to have a different y value. So that's the idea with one-to-one functions, is each x value has to have its own y value. That's what happens with lines. So, will this be one-to-one? Absolutely. It is 1, 2, 1. Yes. Now, B, on the other hand, is an absolute value graph, and it is not going to be one-to-one because there are two different x values that will give you the same y value. Actually, there's a bunch of them. For example, if I plug in 1 to this function, plugging in 1 here will give me 2 times 1, which is 2. The absolute value of 2 will give me 2. But plugging in -1 gives me, let's see, -1 times 2, which is -2, but then I still have to take the absolute value, which is, well, the absolute value of -2 is still 2. So the problem is that your y's do repeat. So this function is not one-to-one. So not one-to-one. Because again, you have repeating y values. Now, what about the last one, C? Well, let's take a look. Let's try something. Well, what happens if you plug in 1? Well, you'll get 1 squared here, which is 1. So you'll get 100 minus 1, which is 99. So we get the square root of 99. Okay, what happens if you plug in -1? Well, you plug in -1 and you still square it. You're still going to get 1. So you'll still get 100 minus 1, which is 99. So you still get the square root of 99. So is this thing one-to-one? Absolutely not, because you have, again, a y value repeating. So this is not one-to-one. So next part, moving along, is how do we know if a graph is one-to-one? Well, if you're worried about repeating y values, you're worried about whether or not something is going to pass. This is a new test. It's called the horizontal line test. The horizontal line test makes sure that you're not repeating your y values. It means that a horizontal line should hit your graph no more than once if it is one-to-one. So this horizontal line test, we'll call it the HLT, will tell us whether or not it is one-to-one. So the horizontal line test will tell us if it's 1, 2, 1. If the horizontal line hits once or less, we're good and it's one-to-one. If the horizontal line hits more than once, it is not one-to-one. So let's look at these graphs real quick. In In A, we have a line. Any horizontal line will hit it once. So yes, it is 1 to 1. So again, this is 1 to 1. Yes, this line is 1 to 1 because any horizontal line you draw will only hit it at most once. Now let's look at problem B. On problem B, we have a parabola, but let's draw just one horizontal line, and what we'll notice is it hits more than once, it hits twice, so automatically this is not 1 to 1. Because we have at least one horizontal line that hits it more than once. Let's look at C, which looks like a cube root graph probably. Any horizontal line we draw, notice, is only going to hit the graph at most once. So yes, it is going to be 1 to 1 according to the horizontal line test. Now these next few you might say, I don't know, but you have to draw a graph. Well, this first one on D has a squared, so we know it's a parabola. The minus sign tells you it's a parabola facing downward, but you don't actually need more than that. Because if you have a parabola facing downward, what do you know? Any horizontal line you draw is going to hit more than once, so it is not 1 to 1. The next graph, E, has a cubed. Remember, the x cubed graph looks something like this. So what does that mean? Any horizontal line's only going to hit it once. That is true. So yes, it is going to be 1 to 1 according to the horizontal line test. Now what about F? F is a special graph that we talked about back in chapter, I believe it was 4 on fractions. And we said, well, if you've got a fraction, whatever's going to make the denominator 0, in this case x equals -2, will be what's called a vertical asymptote. Now because the bottom's bigger, you also know you have a horizontal asymptote at 0. And it looks like the 1 over x graph, so it should look like something like this. So because it looks like just like the 1 over x graph, any horizontal line will only hit your graph once. However, so this graph is 1 to 1, yes. However, had this been 1 over x plus 2 squared, absolutely not. Remember, the squared graph on the bottom looks something like this. Again, you'd still have the horizontal asymptote at 0. You'd still have the vertical asymptote at -2, but your actual graph would point up on both sides because of the squared. And that one, the 1 over x plus 2 squared graph, whether or not that's 1 to 1 would actually be a no.